And welcome back. So this is the penultimate episode I've just viewed of Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's part 4, which is in fact a Arrow episode, The Vanishing Point. Very different style of episode this evening that was just shown. It's probably the most sci-fi of all of the episodes I've seen so far. Lots going on, particularly trying to get all the Pacific heroes to the point where they need to be before the final tomorrow evening for the Legends of Tomorrow episode. It's very different in that it also retraces and tells back a lot of what's happened over the past sort of several years of the different shows. It also, in fact, has really good dynamics for going into the memories of what's happened previously from those other specials, which was quite nice. So if you've not seen those before, it's a really sort of almost like an entry point way in for those people to bring them up to speed on what's happened previously, as well as obviously earmarking it for fans who've been watching for several years now for the different Arrowverse shows. How do I feel about this overall? It's still strong. Like I said, it's very different. It's not going to be to everyone's taste, this part 4. Like I said, that sci-fi-ish element comes from the way it's a bit more sort of measured in its approach. It's a much slower episode compared to the previous ones that I've seen so far, especially last night's episode, which was a lot more kind of urgent and sort of feeling to the point of where everything is sort of culminating towards something momentous. This is, but in a different way, in that it's building up towards tomorrow night's episode, in that this being the bit before the payoff. It's also got very good amounts of earmarking and sort of measuring out and giving each character their own sort of moment as well, as the other ones have done. But in this one in particular, something happens very early on in the episode as a sort of consequence of the previous one, to allow you to sort of focus in more on key Pacific characters. Like I said, I'm trying to keep it spoiler-free as much as possible without giving too much away, which is quite difficult now because this is obviously the bit before the final. I will say though, going with part 4 with an open mind, there is something still there for everyone. Less catharsis. There is still a moment of levity. It comes from, again, it's a flash moment without giving too much away, which is always quite nice, especially after Part 3's episode was quite heavy emotionally. This one has needed that little bit of levity there, but it is much more concentrated as well, in that it's bridging and bringing up to speed of kind of where everyone needs to be for the final. And very importantly as well, this character, which is again not a spoiler, but the Monitor, who has instigated a lot of what's happened because of his actions through the course of leading up to and during Crisis on Infinite Earths. We get more of his backstory, which is really nice. It's almost like a kind of quasi kind of Thanos moment of sort of seeing him in his own surroundings and understanding his reasoning as to what has brought him to this point in his life and why the crisis actually began in the first place, which is really cool. So if you've not also read the comic book previously or have seen a lot of the other things leading up into Crisis, that again pays off wonderfully. There is something very wonderful as well about this episode, in that it feels the most filmic so far. They play about a lot with the camera and style of the angles and attention to detail, much more deeper close-ups to get that range of emotion out of these actors. And they're all so good in these episodes. And here in particular, you're going to see their real kind of character strengths. And again, it's a bridging episode in that it's so important, this part 4, in that it's spearheading and showing you kind of where potentially now the Arrowverse can go into the future after this episode. And that is captivated wonderfully here from each and every one of the actors and the characters involved. I'm going to give this episode overall an 8.5. Like I said, go with an open mind on this part 4. It's not going to be for everyone. It is the penultimate to the part 5 story arc. So there is still that whole chunk of time still to come. Again, a fair amount did happen this episode, but actually on reflection, it was a lot more about deeper character study and internal monologue and thought. So actually a lot less did kind of happen as well. It was more about the Anti-Monitor's history with the event, and also the Pacific characters that we're going to get now leading into what is going to eventually be the final battle to help to bridge or hopefully seemingly stop Crisis on Infinite Earths. And also, will there be any more Infinitude left as well? I have to also get that back in again. I love that word of that part one. It was just so ridiculous to hear that, but again, it makes sense for the context of the show. So please let me know if you've been watching these episodes so far. I'd like to hear your feedback, opinions, comments. Please share, like and support the channel. And remember, this is a spoiler free, so if you have already seen the episodes previously from months back from last year, please don't leave those descriptions in the responses below, but still please share your thoughts and opinions and feelings about them. And as always, in these times of uncertainty, everyone please remain safe. Hope to see you all again soon in the near future. And that's all for now. Thank you and cheers for listening. Bye for now.